evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And how are you this evening?
Hmm.
I'm good.
Um,
Why is it that good song is a bit suspicious?
Yeah, I'm just figuring out something else.
it was,
Okay,
yeah, I'm better today.
okay. Very, very good to note. I'm seeing we have a new person on. Welcome, Renata. Hello, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hello, and welcome to this evening session. And please feel free to participate because this session is interactive.
Okay.
All right. So, how was everyone's week this week?
Do not ask.
Last week.
Ah, well, this week demonstrated the uncertainty of time, the uncertainty of life, and that you should not take things for granted.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to accept. You just have to accept because who can you scream at? You cannot scream at anyone. You just have to, as they would say, humble yourself
Yeah.
and accept. So this was the week. The week ended really, really surprisingly. So
Understood. Anyone else? How was your week this week? Well, last week?
I think I had the same experience Catherine had
Okay.
because I had like my old manager that I used to work with in Boston. She texted me. No, she called me. I think I was on live last Monday, and while I was on live, I missed the call, and then she texted me.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like saying one of like our coworkers passed away. So I called her back after, and she was saying that she was at work the Friday before, and people talked to her the Friday before. And like they relocated, and everybody was talking about where they're gonna sit and picking their seats. And then last Monday was a holiday. So Tuesday she no showed for work, so they called. She didn't pick up. Tuesday, she no showed for work. They called, and I think a male person, like her boyfriend or someone, picked up and said she passed away from an asthma attack. So it was just like, you know,
giving them away.
exactly. But I mean, like, for me, for someone who has asthma, in my head, I'm thinking there had to be signs of your asthma was acting up. It's not like your asthma just act up and you passed away. And the guy was like, she passed away in his arms, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And he was like, when I guess he was holding her, he was like, don't die on me, don't die on me. And she said, no, I'm not going to die on you. And she passed away. So it was just like, nobody knows the hour, the time, the day. You're here right now, next second, you may not be. So it's all about just like really appreciating the here and now. Even though you might have, troubling circumstances or difficult situations, maybe, whatever you're going that whatever is going on in your life, but still, you know, she didn't know she was gonna pass away. Like an hour before that, she was probably, if she was feeling sick, well, okay, I'm feeling sick. I felt sick many times before, but for me, it's just like in that the last seconds or whatever, as her boyfriend or whoever is holding her, and she's like, no, I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
she's no more. So it's just like, we gotta be so appreciative of every second.
And even in addition to what you're saying, and I know that we will move into it, but that is why, especially tonight's topic is so important, because that is really what it speaks about in terms of self. Love is more than a feeling. Because a lot of times, we come on here and we discuss, you're just going with whatever. Sometimes you're feeling like you're on a treadmill and you're just going, 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 going. And in doing so, you're not recognizing sometimes your body showing signs. And sometimes because the pattern, which is not best for you, is the pattern that you get accustomed utilizing. So sometimes your body showing you signs you're not even able to identify what that is. And again, that is why we really have these sessions, because sometimes, a lot of times, we are not paying attention to the signs, because the signs are there and we don't pay attention. And then some of us, we're not even aware that we're not aware.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not even aware that you're not aware, because you're in this pattern for so long, even though the pattern might not be serving you, but you're in the pattern for so long, so you're not even aware that you're not aware. And that is why even this topic tonight is so important. And it ties back to, and let me just read something for you all. Let me just read something, and it would tie into exactly what Lisa was just expressing. So let me read the post. This was Sunday's post for you all. So the post said the review mirror may look familiar, but in reality, it no longer exists. The past cannot be relived, only remembered. What lies before you deserves more of your attention than what has already passed. Be present, be aware, be wherever your feet are. And how often do you think for yourself you are where your feet are?
Hmm.
I think not often enough. Because most of the times, like, you're so caught up in being life and being busy, and you're
Mm-hmm,
always busy. I always got this to do. I always got this to do, and you're thinking ahead. I have this whole list of chores or this whole list of things that I have to do.
mm-hmm,
Or, like for some of us who've been through, like, troubling times, you're always like in the past, what I could have done, how I could have done it better, how could I have changed it? And you're not
you're not.
present. You're
Mm-mm,
not enjoying the moment. You're not smelling the roses. You're not enjoying. Because even today, I came home and I was saying to my daughter, I was like, I think we need to kind of come up with a plan to book a trip or start planning vacations for the next year. Because, every year it's like, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to go here. And the time come up and on you, and it's like nothing has been done.
mm-hmm,
And I
Mm-hmm.
have like a couple of friends that, they went to Aruba, they went to cruise at different cruises and all that. And I'm like, time is just passing me by. So you're so caught up in work bills, frustrated about work, bills, that you're really not enjoying anything
mm-mm.
within, the time that we have on earth.
That is very, very, very true. Because when you're really sitting and you ask yourself the question, am I where my feet are? Or am I somewhere in the past? Or am I somewhere in the future? What answer comes to you?
Hmm. I think I am always, I don't want to say always, but I always have to work myself back to where my feet are standing. And today was a particularly, well, the day was the day. It was my response to the day.
Mm-hmm,
But somehow I awoke this morning And I had a few thoughts about yesterday. And then I said, well, okay, today is a day for putting things in place. And I went to my desk and I made a short list of the things that I know I had to keep in mind, keep in view, because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you have a sitting. And then it dawned on me that I don't want a particular funeral to pass and I don't know where it is. So I started to try to reach the relatives. That took some time. And then I got a phone call from Madonna saying, listen, the other schedule is out. And I found myself feeling as though a wave was sort of crashing in and everything was just. And then I said, you know what? You have to breathe. You have to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Have to breathe. It is not what you think. Nothing is crashing in on you. But for some reason, my home felt empty today. And I said, just go and sit down and be systematic. Go on, breathe, sit down and breathe. You're not going to do two things at the same time because you won't get anything done. So try and get a priority and sit down. And little by little, it started to feel calmer and a little bit calmer and a little bit calmer. And then I said, well, okay, there'll be some things that I won't be able to do before 4 and certainly not before 6. But let me get out what I have to get out before 6. And then at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to go back to, and in between. So I had to really dig in terms of oh, using using the tools to deal with today. Because I found that I was letting a lot of external things sort of cause me to be unbalanced, and it's not balanced. And I didn't want to be unbalanced. So today I had to use my toolkit. Really, really consciously use my toolkit
Mm-hmm.
in order to make it through the day. Somewhere between midday and 5:30, use the toolkit fully. Breathe, 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 breathe. Just calm and talk to myself. Talk to myself that the thing you're thinking and your mind is running away with you,
Mm-hmm.
that is not accurate. The house isn't any emptier than it was yesterday. You're not imagining things. And so just steady yourself.
Yeah.
And I was able to pull myself into where my feet were actually standing.
Yeah. Because even today, I had to, again, the thought came back to me in terms of the post from Sunday, because a lot of times your feet might be where you are, but your mind elsewhere. And sometimes you're there digging up unnecessary things and rehashing unnecessary situations and igniting unnecessary feelings and emotions for something that has passed. And even in that moment, in those moments, well, they're not as much as before, but I would ask myself the question, what are you feeling in this moment? And usually you're feeling irritated. Why are you feeling irritated? Because you're rehashing something that happened already. Why are you rehashing that? And then you had to bring yourself back to you are where your feet are. And at the time, my feet we were outside hanging our clothes. So you really have to practice. You have to ask yourself the question. And even I know for a lot of us, in a lot of different instances, you don't know where to start. Okay, so I ask myself the question, or you tell yourself, I am where my feet are. I am where my feet are. So you recognize, okay, for some of us, you're in your bedroom, you might be in your little office space, wherever you are. And then you might be asking yourself, so what now? All right. So to answer that question, let me now bring you to today's post. So I will just share my screen with you guys again. So for today's post, it says, and this is of course when you know a lot of times you don't know where to start, you have a lot of things to do. So in that instance, pick just one important task. Set a timer for 45 to 90 minutes because you know for some of us our attention span could be a lot shorter. Turn off notifications and distractions. Really work on that one thing. Then take a real 10-minute break. Do nothing. Your life will be renewed and your gratitude is already built into your productivity. When was the last time you focused on doing one thing? One thing, no distractions, no notifications for 45 to 90 minutes.
It wasn't today. I can tell you that.
No? Renata, are you there? All right, so I guess you're probably not. Anastasia, are you there?
Yes, good night.
Hello. When was the last
Mm,
time you focused on one thing, no distractions or notifications, for 45 to 90 minutes?
For the most part, yes. I hardly multitask
Okay.
because somehow or the other, like I can't handle it. I try to do it. Yes, I do it in and between, but for the most part, I don't do it because at the end, then I am extremely exhausted,
Yeah.
mentally especially.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is it.
And even for those who thinking that you're multitasking, you're really not multitasking. You know, you're pausing one thing to continue our next thing, and then you're moving on to the next thing and pausing that thing to continue something else. Eh? And again,
Mm.
if you were to focus in the moment on the one task, let me get this one thing done. All right, 10-minute break. Let me focus on something else. But what we tend to do is sometimes you want to complete the entire task in one shot, and it doesn't work like that. And for some of us, we tend to frustrate ourselves because of it. You didn't get this one thing completed. But if you are looking at the mountain and you said, okay, every day I am going to dedicate 45 minutes, wouldn't the mountain be a lot smaller at the end of the week? Instead of trying to tackle the whole mountain, and even I have a instance where my sister, she would decide to clean and she would have all the energy, and probably after an hour everything scattered all over the place and her battery is on zero. And she is amongst all the mess somewhere, lying down or sitting down, trying to figure out what is her next move. And I know it is not only her, I know for a lot of us. That is what we also tend to do. But instead, what you can do is tackle one area. I am tackling this area. And why do you think we always want to get the whole thing done in one day or the whole thing done in 2 hours instead of pacing yourself? Is it necessary that you need to get the entire thing done today in comparison to if you give yourself some time? Or if you work on it and you say, okay, at the end of the month, this is the result I want to see, and then you work on it and you work towards that. Instead of frustrating yourself, you throw your hands up in the air because you know at the end of the day, when the mess is there and you see the mess, what happens? You just pack it back up. I will deal with this before Christmas. And then you blink and it's New Year. So you miss Christmas altogether and all. So you really have to give yourself time, and it is important that you really set the designated time, and after the time has elapsed, stop. Because what we tend to do is you have energy still, no, let me continue, and then when you continue, what you end up doing, you burn out yourself. And when you burn out yourself, you don't want to return to that task at all altogether because you burn out yourself. Instead of pacing yourself. And even within that, and for those of us who are accustomed burning out ourselves, how is that connected to self-love?
It is not.
Yeah. And I know that it might be difficult because, especially for the generation before my generation, you're accustomed to just going without stopping, without pacing yourself. And even a lot of times, too, I know growing up for you guys, you were probably told if you're lying down, you're lazy. If you're doing this, you're lazy. And that is not necessarily the case because even with whatever it is, if it's with a car, if it's with a cell phone, whatever it is, everything needs rest, including you. And if you don't give it rest, what will happen? That is really, really what it is. And I know that you all don't tend to see it like that. And in that instance, you would recognize that self love is really a commitment and not just an emotion. You know, that you might think that, yes, I love myself, but your actions tell it a different story. When it's time to get rest, what do you do? When it's time to relax, what do you do? When it's time to ask yourself the question, am I where my feet are? Or did I anchor myself in a situation that I experienced 2 years ago? Or did I anchor myself in something that I experienced last week? Or did I anchor myself in a fear that I have for the future? When you think about it, in terms of asking yourself the question, am I where my feet are? Where did you anchor yourself? Is anybody here anchored elsewhere? Do you
I
need to?
think I think I am.
Okay, so where did you anchor yourself?
No, because I just put my phone in because I changed my banking information and I was trying to change all my, you know, auto pay bank stuff and I wanted to complete that because I
Mhm.
feel like if I don't complete it, then I'll forget one or the other and not go back to it. So I completed that. So I'm anchored now.
Understood. But when you hear the term "Am I where my feet are?" you recognize that a lot of times you anchor yourself elsewhere.
So I have a question though,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your anchoring. So like for a lot of us, you cooking Sunday dinner, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's anchoring because normally, you put on one pot for one dish, another pot for another dish, another pot for another dish. So you're supposed to just do one dish at a time?
Well, again, what works best for you? Because even if you put another pot on, remember you still focus on that other pot. Because for me, I would put multiple pots on, but I know that if you put the rice to boil, that is it. If you put peas to cook, you season it up, that is it. You will have to check it at the end to see what it is missing. When the rice is done, you take it off the stove. And it is the same thing because even within it, again, you really have to be present. Because you might think in that moment you're multitasking, but you're really not because you're still focused on one pot. Even for me, I am still focused. Yes, there are many pots on the stove. I am still focused on one pot at a time. I would put rice to boil because rice, there is nothing to do. You put it on the stove, you take it off the stove, and then you do whatever with the peas, you check it before you take it off the stove. And that is it. You're still focused on one thing. Even as you're moving through the different um things that you would have to cook. Yes, Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Lisa, I guess what you'll be focused on is cooking.
Mhm.
So moving the pots around or having to deal with whatever pot you're actively engaged with at that time. You're still engaged in cooking, as opposed to you're cooking and you're washing and you're trying to clean the bedroom at the same time, because you tell yourself, well, while the pot is on, I could wash some clothes. But that is when you're really you're doing too much, as the young people would say. So the movement of the pots, because I'm sure that in your cooking you would have identified what takes priority. As Adana is saying, you have to put on the rice, but you know that in your awareness, you put on the rice, and that rice is going to take approximately 8 minutes, end of text. So you're not just stirring the rice pot. But if you might have meat that you might have to turn over, or something that you have to pay a little bit more. So in your own mind, you would have the priority as to what will get more attention and what will have awareness. But all in all, you're focusing on cooking as opposed to cooking and cleaning the bedroom at the same time. Because while you're inside there and your mind goes away, that's the end of your good food. Pie burn, everything. Then you come back and you say, so. But for me, this whole question of being lazy,
Yeah.
and particularly when I had people in the space, I remember telling my son, and if the houses, and when people come to the house, and if they see the house looking untidy, it's always the woman gets the blame, because they will think that, you don't know how to keep a tidy house and whatnot. And then it was a case of, you see this thing called Sunday food? That's the first one that I dropped. Food is food. And if you want to eat a pie during the week, make a pie during the week. It can't have pie only for Sunday. Then all those dishes, unnecessary, unless you're really cooking for the rest of the week. And so now, if there is soup from Saturday, soup is going to be eaten on Sunday. And it is going to be eaten on Monday, and it is going to be eaten on Tuesday until the pot is empty, or that bowl that was storing it was empty. So, and as for cleaning a house now, if I say, okay, fine, I get up today, I want to maybe tidy up the living room, I want to do some mopping. I no longer feel badly if 5 p.m. arrives and it is not done. Because when I get up, if I say, what is for me today? What are we doing today? And I look around and something comes to me, maybe go outside, I would go outside. And if I'm doing something inside and a thought comes to you could sit down. Just lie down a bit. I will lie down right on the couch. And if at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., all that I have on my to-do list, I used to be run ragged with to-do lists. Because I have a to-do list and I have to finish it, and midnight is there, 1 a.m. is there, and my head is hurting me, and I'm saying, my mind, my mind, my mind. Once the mind is in control, it will tell the body what to do. Migraine is killing me, my eyes can hardly see. And I'm holding on to that foolish idea. And then I learned, oh really, mind, mind, mind. If the heart says I'm out of this, then you will see what to do with the mind. So I no longer put myself through all of that. I feel to lie down, I lie down. I feel to look at my phone, I look at my phone. I know I have some things to get done, then I would reschedule it a bit, see what is priority. But if I'm feeling to lie down now, I lie down without saying, oh God, Catherine, you're lazy. You're lazy, you're lazy. No, 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 no. Nobody's lazy near Catherine Good. It
Yes.
is time to lie down. And this is what I've been trying to give more of myself to.
Mm-hmm.
Just paying attention, because when you see people just dropping down like flies, and I'm speaking to the relative this morning, and she's saying the guy who passed, for the last 2 weeks, he was saying he's not feeling himself. And she would tell him, well, go to the hospital. And she said he didn't go. So it's really a waste of time now to be getting caught up in labels like lazy and you're not this and you're not that and trying to keep up with standards that you saw somewhere else. I remember my mother telling me that when you have children, the first thing you must do when you get up in the morning is to tidy up your children. Because if people come by, they will know you did at least one thing for the day. And I remember holding on to that and holding on to that and holding on to that until the other day I was telling my son that, and it came to me. So what if people come to your house and they want to call your house dirty or whatever it is, children look dirty? They're not helping you. So might as well just forget all of that. So for me, I am trying to go forward. Just I'm no longer lazy.
Yes. Understood. Anastasia, I'm seeing you have your hand raised.
Yes, I am listening to this topic and my mind is going back to when I used to beat my body.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about working hard for the dollar because you have so much things you want to get done and you want to get it. You find you reach this age in life and you should have this and you should have that and you don't have it and you're doing all kind of 2 and 3 jobs and you're beating your body. I remember I used to do a Saturday job apart from what I used to do in the week. And when I come home from doing that Saturday job, I just used to lie down on the bed and start to cry. Cry. Watch my night was like if it was river water flowing out of me. First, I used to be tired, tired until I reached the stage that I had to give up that job. And when I give it up, I say, self, I will never treat you so again.
Yeah.
I will never misuse you and abuse you. I will never bring you to the state that you have to lie. You're so tired that water just flowing out of your eye uncontrollably. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And I gave up that Saturday job and life went on and everything worked out and fall into place. So at this stage of my life, I am not overworking myself. I am not killing myself for anything. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it's not worth it. Whatever you're killing out yourself for is not worth it.
Yeah.
You worth more than the thing that you're killing out yourself for.
Yes.
It was a hard lesson for me to learn, but I learned it. Thank God. I learned it before it killed me.
Yes.
Thank God for that.
Yes. And in the sessions during the week, we are often told nothing is more important than you, because that is what we tend to do. We tend to put so many different things as being more important than us. And because of that, that is where you place your focus. And a lot of times, again, the signs might be there, but sometimes you're so consumed with other things, you can't even identify that the signs are there. And you see, this is why we have this topic tonight in terms of self-love is more than just a feeling, because a lot of times we reduce it to just a feeling, but it is really more than a feeling, because it is how you live every single day. You really have to pause sometimes and ask yourself certain questions. And even as Anastasia was able to identify, for some of us, we never identified it, we will never able to identify it. And a lot of times what happens is that your body ends up paying the price. And even for some of us, your mind ends up paying the price, because you end up with some mental issues in the long run. We really have to slow down. It is something that for some of us we are now recognizing, and even as Anastasia said, you came to the realization, but you really have to start to slow down. But when you hear these three terms, self-love, self-esteem, and self-worth, what do you think that the differences are between the three? Self-love, self-esteem, and self-worth. Okay, so let's start with one. Then we'll move on to the others. When you hear the word self-love, what comes to mind?
Taking care of yourself. putting you first,
Mhm.
prioritizing you, your, your, you. What is the physical, the mental, spiritual, seeing about you, caring enough about you to want to see things well in all those spaces. And we tend to mostly think about the physical, but inside there, a little bit of the mental, a little bit of the spiritual wrapped up. But is almost, I want to say, almost pampering you.
Mhm.
Just having a really, really strong love affair with you. And so that it takes priority over everything else.
Yeah.
It's a nice goal to work to, but I know I've fallen a little short in some spaces,
Yes.
but that's where I'm going.
Self-love is really a daily choice. It is really, 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 it is a daily choice. Because whenever you are presented with whatever the choice is, do you make the choice that is best for you, or do you make the choice that will cause you some pain, some overthinking, some regret, some resentment? So that is why it is really a daily choice, because sometimes the choice come and you make the choice to facilitate someone else above what you really wanted to do. You make the choice to do something that you really didn't feel like doing in the moment, or even as Anastasia say, you make the choice to push yourself beyond your limits. So that is why you recognize self-love is really a daily choice. It is how how do you prioritize yourself each and every day? You say, I need to drink more water. I need to exercise. When the choice presents itself, I need to stop eating so much fried food. When the choice presents itself, what choice do you make? Do you make the choice that is in your best interest, or do you make the choice that is easy? Yes, Anastasia?
Yes, you know what I come to realize? That sometimes the love that we're supposed to have for ourselves, we just take it and give it to other people. We
Yes.
just give away our self love. And you know what? We're giving it away with the hope that the people who you're giving it to will give you it back in return. And most times they do not give you it back in the return in return. They will take all the love that you've given to them, and they will feel nice and comfy and all how you supposed to be putting it on yourself and making yourself feel. You're giving them that feeling and you empty because they're not giving you it back.
Yep.
So I come to realize that here what it is. The love that we just be looking to get from other people, we have it inside of us to give it to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to give it to ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we start to pull up ourselves and give ourselves that love, you see the overflow is what you just give to other people.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And even again, let me read another post. The Saturday's post speaks exactly about what Anastasia just explained, because it says compassion is often given freely to others, yet withheld from self. We comfort others, reminding them that everyone makes mistakes and that difficult moments do not define who they are. The way that you speak to yourself matters most, because growth can only flourish where compassion is present and criticism is replaced with understanding. Yes, Anastasia?
Yes, and you know something that always in my head right now is when Quentin always saying there is only you. You see that? I just really remember that. That does keep me grounded, rooted and grounded. You know? And when he say, who cares? Rooted and grounded. That has helped me.
Yes. Yes, because you're realizing more and more, especially moving forward, there is only you. And even when you look at the trees, and let me tell you something, when you look at nature, is the tree concerned? Is the mango tree concerned with what the dog doing? The dog concerned with what the fish doing? The pawpaw tree concerned with what the avocado tree doing? No, everybody focus on the self. Every plant focus on the self. When you look at the ants, they focus on the self. You look at the bees, they focus on what they doing. They focus on their little world. Everybody focus, but for us, whew, we consume what everybody else doing, and you see in doing that, again, you are not tending to your garden. Sometimes your plants drying down, something needs water, you have weeds to pull up, you have vines to pull down, and you're totally oblivious and unaware because you're focused on everything and everybody else other than you. And for those of us who are in the sessions during the week, remember we're supposed to be focused on the things that we want to achieve, and we have our list. But even when you think about your list again, are you where your list is? You anchored elsewhere. Sometimes you really have to ask yourself the question, yes, I want these things, but where am I? Are you where your feet are to receive? Are you in the present moment to receive the answers to the question that you're asking? Or is your mind just filled with clutter from yesterday and worries about tomorrow? Are you keeping your mind clear to receive the answers, to receive the next step? Or is your mind cluttered? You can't sort through the clutter. You don't know your head from your tail. You just don't know anything. And you see, that is why it is really important. And when you get up in the morning, I know this is something that we always used to say. You're asking yourself, what is required for you today? Because what was required for you yesterday may not be required for you today. And a lot of times you just want to fall back into whatever yesterday's pattern was. Yesterday's price may not be today's price. Because I went in the grocery and a broccoli is now $75 for a broccoli. Last week I bought a broccoli for $40. Yesterday's price is not today's price. And again, you're going back to the pattern. So I would usually go buy peppercorn because they have really nice broccoli. Usually $40. When I saw 65, I said, peppercorn feeling sick. What is wrong with peppercorn? I said, well, just go back by price mart because I went by price mart and I saw it for 40. Price mart said 75. I said, okay, I went home empty handed. I did not buy any broccoli. Not at all. So again, you're recognizing what was required yesterday is not what is required today. So we know now what self-love is because self-love is a daily choice. But when you think of self-esteem, what comes to mind? Self-esteem.
What do you think about yourself?
Yes.
The value you place on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, somewhere in there, yeah, I don't know, maybe somewhere in there, there's in my, because you hear the word so frequently, low self esteem, high self esteem,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it carries a sort of external, how to put it, as though it's something that you focus on because of something outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's not something you would normally be sitting saying, my self esteem, let me check my self esteem. To me, you tend to think of self esteem when you hear someone else talking about self esteem. And yourself, or they're telling you about your self esteem, is not something that I would focus on as something unrelated to something external. I don't know if I'm saying it.
Yes. But usually self-esteem or lack thereof, people usually think of it from um the viewpoint of capabilities. Do I see myself as capable or do I see myself as incapable? Because a lot of times when you compare yourself to somebody else who is more capable than you, that is where you would tend to see you have a low self-esteem because you see yourself as less than, or you see yourself as unequipped, or you see yourself as I am not capable of. But again, are you a fish trying to be a butterfly? Or are you a mango trying to be a cassava? And again, you really have to sit and ask yourself these questions. Is this for me or is this not for me? Because if you are a fish trying to be a butterfly, you would certainly tell yourself that you have low self esteem. But if you focus on being who you are, where you are in your space, wherever your feet are, then you would have a different experience. And there would be no need to even consider whether or not your self esteem is low because you are functioning from where you are meant to be. Just as you would see again crew cuts, you would think that a barber is a job. For some people they look down on it. Or even when you think of the barber, Steve Harvey's barber, who I think works for like more than $5,000 a day or a week now. I think it's a day when he would cut his hair. Are you functioning where you are supposed to function, or are you functioning outside of that space? Because you are comparing yourself to others and trying to measure yourself against somebody who is functioning where they are supposed to be or meant to be. And in that instance, you would recognize, yes, you would certainly have a low self esteem because you are probably supposed to be, you're probably supposed to start as somebody who does garbage collection and then you end up opening your own company or your own companies with various locations, and then you have fleets of, garbage trucks. But again, where are you functioning from? Are you functioning from where your feet are? Or are you functioning outside of where your feet are? And when you get up in the morning, ask yourself, am I where my feet are? Or am I elsewhere? Am I in yesterday? Or am I in this moment? Am I in 20 minutes from now? You don't even know what will happen in 20 minutes. Because I know for those of us who was here earlier, you're recognizing that some people thought they would be here in 20 minutes and they are no longer. So you really have to, again, prioritize you. Prioritize whatever, the thought that come in. And for us, we have some thoughts that come in, and what do we do with the persistent thoughts? Ignore it every single time. Ignore it. Drink some more water. No. Just go and do a little walk outside. No. Eat a little less flour, rice. No. Everything is no, 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 no. All the persistent thoughts, we ignore it completely. Every single time. And again, because the soul knows what is about to happen, the soul is trying to circumvent whatever those results are. But we would like to hold on to the results, and then we get the results, get the pain, end up by the doctor. You wonder how you end up here. And you're totally confused as to how you end up here. And again, because you're so consumed with everything and everybody else other than yourself, you miss all the signs. And again, you only get the sign when you're back against the wall or your health is at risk. And for the last one, when you hear the term self-worth, what comes to mind? Lisa, are you there?
Yes.
When you hear the term self-worth, what comes to mind?
I think for me, a lot of times we, similar to what Catherine was saying, is we compare ourselves as how worthy we are um, in someone else's eyes
Mm-hmm.
instead of accepting that this is where we are and this is who we are, trying to evolve and become better and, coming back to this is where my feet are planted. Not looking at someone else's expectation of us, but, the expectation you have for yourself and where you would like to be and, how you apply the tools that's needed to become who you would like to be.
Yes, 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 yes. Anyone else? Yes, Catherine.
Somehow when you have just a fleeting thought, it has not settled as yet, but I am looking at the three words and I am wondering if self esteem, self worth, if they really matter if you love yourself enough. If those other two things, um, to me, they're almost like subsets of self love.
Mm-hmm.
And they come into being from an external source. Because again, how often do I sit down thinking, what is my self worth? What is my self worth? It's my self worth.
Mm-hmm.
To me, you only run into that sort of thinking from an external source. Something has happened externally, and now you are trying to see where you measure. But if you have number one down pat, the self love, then you do not even have to, there's no consideration for my self esteem or my self worth because I know me. And all of that is wrapped into knowing me. And so trying now to figure out what I understand by self worth, to me, it's coming back to the same thing as self esteem. It's something that I wouldn't have to focus on if I have number one down.
Mm-hmm.
Self love. To me, that covers it. If I'm if I'm If I have pimples, I have pimples. That's it. So what? You want to talk about my pimples? Okay, I saw an advertisement where they have creams for pimples, and if you don't use this cream, you'll be ugly. If you love self, those things do not come in. They don't creep in. You don't even have them in. You don't give them space. So I'm seeing two and three as subsets that are tapped when something external comes. You encounter something external. And therefore, self worth is who you're comparing it against. What are you comparing it against?
Yes, but remember, for all of them, it is based on where are you standing. Are you where your feet are, or are you anchored elsewhere? Yes, Anastasia, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Sometimes two and three will let you know where you're at, where loving yourself is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, well, I experienced this year. I did not realize that I didn't love myself enough based on how I allow people to treat me. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So when I realized, yeah, what? You don't know how much you're worth, because if you know how much you're worth, then you would not allow people to treat you in a certain way. And with that now, when I realized that I don't know I really didn't know what was my worth. Then I realized, yeah, what it is. You don't love yourself enough. Because if you love yourself enough, you will know your worth. So I think you need all three. You know, you need all three in order for you to be, well, my word tonight is rooted and grounded. You need all three.
Yes, yes. And I know for some of us, you see, you might be standing in a more secure space as it relates to your being, but there are others who still struggle with it. And for those who do, you really have to start with, where are you? Where do you stand? It is not about any external source, it is about you and your relationship with you. And I know for a lot of us, we really learn to take in so much of the external, and this person say this teacher say this, my parents say this, your aunt say this, you want to take in, your family say this, you want to take in so much. But at the end of the day, I know I want to be a barber, I don't want to be no doctor, I don't want to be no lawyer. I want to be a barber. And that is all that it is. But again, where are you standing? Are you standing in truth, or are you standing in somebody else's perception of who you are? That is why you really have to keep asking yourself questions, because, again, as Anastasia reinforced, there is only you. And in doing so, once you are standing where you are meant to stand, you would recognize that the role that boundaries play in protecting your peace. Because just as Anastasia said, if I recognize that, listen, I am standing here, I may have been standing here because at the point in time I didn't understand fully as it relates to self love, but now that I do, then you would recognize, you would put the boundary in place for that. So, in terms of, you don't love yourself, yes, okay, I might be experiencing this, but let me make a different choice. Again, once the choice is presented, what choice are you making? Are you making the same choice and falling back into the same pattern, same results, same consequences, same people, same situations, same experiences, same results, same resolutions? And then you're wondering, how am I here? Because you are making the same choices. If you make the same choices, you will get the same results. And then, how do you think that you could cultivate a healthier, more supportive inner relationship with yourself? Because we were not taught growing up that, I have a soul, and the soul really has the map. You're not really taught that. So a lot of times, if you want to do something, what you do, you pick up your phone, you talk to somebody else. The person does not have your understanding, your insights, and then they convince you otherwise. So the little fire and the spark that you had for whatever the thing was, it out. So you miss the opportunity, you miss the everything. You miss the experiences you always want to have, you miss the life that you were meant to live. Because you did not really communicate with you, you communicated outside of you. And again, a lot of times these things happen unknowingly, because we were taught different things. But what do you think that you could do moving forward? And I know for me, first step is, are you where your feet are? Start from there. If you are not there, you are not where you are meant to be. So for you all, how do you think that you could cultivate a more healthier and supportive inner relationship with yourself?
I think one of the first step for me is forgiving yourself. Because a lot of times we don't realize that we've done the best that we could have done based on the information, based on the knowledge, based on the teachings that we've had from our parents, from society, from all the external factors. So, first off, is forgiving yourself and saying that I am enough and I did the best that I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
And then accepting that, and then really getting to the point where you are where your feet are. Because a lot of times if we don't, we tend to beat up on ourselves so much that I should have, I could have, I didn't, and it's all also like shaking off that cloak, because sometimes you would have had a parent who was like, you're not good enough, or they told you, they beat you down where your self-esteem, your morale, a lot of that is shot. So you have to learn to forgive yourself. And they say forgive others, but you're really not forgiving others. It's just for you, for your healing. And then saying, well, I'm enough and my feet is planted here, and starting from where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And then building and pouring into yourself. Because I know for like my generation, we wasn't taught to pour into ourselves. And a lot of times we look at the younger generation, are you so selfish and you're only thinking about yourself and you only doing this. But at the end of the day, you have to prioritize you, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Like if you give everything of yourself to everyone else, you leave nothing for yourself. And a lot of times we do that, especially as parents, we give so much of ourselves to everybody else. And then you burnt out and you're tired. Or you have, your kids want something financially, whatever, and you're like, okay, take it, take it. But when it's time to invest in you, I have this bill to pay, I have that to do, I have this to do, and it's really hard if you don't really learn how to prioritize you. If you don't learn to say, well, I am deserving of the same as everyone else. So it's about standing where you are, learning to love you, learning if, and even if it means on Saturday morning you sleep in, knowing that doing nothing is doing something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, and really investing in you. Start to do things that you like to do. Start to plan things that you want to do. Start to travel. It might be small things. You can start from small. You don't necessarily start from like the biggest thing. You start from little baby steps. But once you start to build and invest in yourself, your self confidence is changes. Your morale changes. You have more peace of mind. You're not as frustrated. You're not as angry. So your whole persona,
Mm-hmm.
start to exemplify how you feel inside.
Yep. And with that, you're really recognizing more and more that there is only you. Nobody could do it for you. Nobody is going to do it for you. There is only you. If you would like to achieve A, there is only you. Spend time with yourself, find out what is the next step? How do I move from this point to that point? Even if you encounter a challenge, that does not mean it is the end of the journey. It does not mean that. You may determine that, but it does not necessarily mean that. Sometimes it just means that this is not the best direction. You are attempting to go right, you might need to go left. You are attempting to go north, you might need to go south. You might need to recalibrate. But do not give up altogether or revert back to what you know not working, because that's the next thing that we tend to do. If I attempt something new and it didn't work out, let me go back to what I know is not working and has been frustrating me for the past 10 years. Let me do it still. It might change. It might change. It doesn't change. All it does is make you uncomfortable again for you to make this step again. It does not mean the end of the journey. Yes, Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Yes, as Lisa was talking, we always talk about this generation versus that generation. But what came was that this current, what we would call young people, generation right after us, while we thought we were giving and helping and being, they were observing, the effects of holding on to things, places, memories. They were looking at that effect and they were making choices and decisions that will not be their life. And so when we looking now and we want to do this and you should have this and you're working yourself to death because you want to pass on something, they're not interested in that at all. And the justification for not being interested in is we saw you killing yourself. We saw and we didn't say anything because we probably didn't feel we could say something, or when we tried to show you something else, you were set in your own thoughts. So, but they don't have that attachment to things or people or places. And sometimes I look and I say, wow, look at how they are content to just follow their dreams. Just follow it. It looks as though, there's no structure to it. But you are starting to pass on this and there, like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't get it, I don't get it. I don't really need it. You don't have to really do that. And you're trying to do more and you're trying to do more and you're getting more frustrated and you're emptying your cup more and you're really pouring it onto rocks because they are not interested in taking in what you are pouring. They have no interest in it at all. So it is best to quickly gather what is left of your life and make a quick pivot to say, okay, fine, that is the dress I want. So let me have this dress. Do not put it aside for a child because they are not interested. They have watched us struggle. They are thankful. They have a roof over their head. And even if they don't have a roof over their head, they always think of a friend couch they can sleep on because they saw that somewhere. So it's doable. And so it is best in terms of loving yourself that, and I know for me, I have had to really walk myself, and even now it's difficult. But you have to face the fact that they have looked at us and they do not want that life for themselves. And so it is for us now to quickly shed that skin and get out of that mode and plan. Like last year, I wanted to go to Tobago for Christmas. And something happened at the very last minute. But then I remember when I got to Tobago by myself, I cried going over on the plane. But when I sat there, I said, but wait, what are you crying for? You had said somewhere around June, you are going to Tobago for Christmas. You didn't say you and the marriage were going. You said you were going. And I tell you, I didn't have to study. I rolled over on one bed. There were two beds in the room. I slept on the other bed. I got up when I wanted, ate when I wanted, drove the car off when I wanted. Nobody to tell me yes or no or yes or no. We hurry up. We have to be here. We are going to be late. Nothing of the sort. I had a wonderful time. I want to be in St. Lucia for Christmas 2026. That's it. St. Lucia for Christmas. And you have to, I think this is the step that we have to take from that generation to understand whatever is left of your days. Gather it up and just funnel it into yourself. Others will see. They will either take an example or they won't take that example because they're already not taking your example. But when they see you start to love yourself more, it will be a better example as to how they can love themselves or not. But they do not want what we are offering.
Catherine, I just want to say something. Like one of the things that you said about traveling by yourself, because I know even for me, when you think about applying that self-love and you say, okay, go to the movies by yourself. What? Go to the movies by myself? You always think that you need a company. You need to be accompanied by someone to enjoy yourself. In the comfort of your home, that's your safety, your safe space. So it's okay. I can stay home, but to step out of that, to do any activity by yourself is always like, wow, I don't know. I need that other person for that moral support. So that was one of the things too that I still working on, and I started to do some stuff by myself, but I think that's a very valid point in a big part of the whole self-love thing, that it's only so you have to be comfortable in whatever space with only you.
You have to be comfortable with wherever your feet are. That is what you really have to be comfortable with. And not where everybody else is experiencing and what others are doing. You really have to recognize and be consciously aware that you are where your feet are. And that is where you could start to create everything from. And that is where self love could really start from. Because for so many of us, you're consumed outside of that space. You're not even aware of it in a lot of instances. And for it, you can't even get through the clutter to identify where your feet are, because sometimes you're anchored in so many different scenarios, so many different experiences in the past, and some for even in the future. So you can't even identify where you currently stand. But start to ask yourself the question and really practice it so that you can move yourself forward. Imagine today is the 1st of June. In 6 months, and you know how fast this time is flying. You feel as though you blink and the year is over. In 6 months, we will be in 2027. It was just January. In 6 months. And you have to also ask yourself the question, how close are you to your goal? How close are you? Where are your feet in comparison to your goals? You really have to. Do you want the same resolutions? Do you want to write down the same goals next year? Do you want to still be saying, I really have to start too, My mind told me to do this yesterday, I was really supposed to. Do you want to still be saying those same things at the end of the year? Because the things you have been saying last year was for the past how much years? So how many years are you going to carry it forward? Do you really want to be in the same space? You really have to ask yourself these questions. Or when the choice presents itself, are you going to make the choice that is best, or are you going to make the choice that is easy, comfortable, and familiar but yields no results? Yes, Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
I was going to say that when I look at the list and when I look at the goals that I have been rolling forward for years, it has come to my attention that all of this is meaningless unless I am there.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is just, so all the work has to be on me. All the work, all the dropping off, all the letting go, all of it has to be focused on me, as opposed to trying to see how to get those things, because they do not exist outside of me. And if my feet are not where they're supposed to be, then so it is the work for me to do with me to be able to see those goals. And it took me a little time to really figure that out. So now it's like I will look at the list, but as though the things kind of faded away, not in terms of gone away, but the importance and intensity that I was, shall I say, putting on them, putting on what is written there, is now sort of shifted to, you want that? Then you have to be that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. It's all about you. So I am working on me and on those points so that I do not have to hit December. I am one of those can't believe half the year gone already. I do not have to hit December looking with the same anxiety that I would usually look out with. And that's another thing, getting rid of the anxiety.
And
So,
let me give you a way to deal with the anxiety. You know what is the way to deal with the anxiety? Put the effort in. If the
mm-hmm,
effort is there, the anxiety is not even necessary. Because if you want to learn how to ride a bike, are you going to sit and say, well, or are you actually going to put the effort in and try? Because because it is in doing so, putting the effort in to attempt, that is where you would recognize the anxiety is going to start to shrink, and it will get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, but you have to put the effort in. Again, when you are presented with the choice, what choice are you making? Are you making the anxious choice? I'll do it tomorrow. I will do it next week. I will do it next month. You know, what choice are you making? Because a lot of times, again, based on the pattern, you will want to make the choice based on anxiety to make yourself continue to enjoy the comfort. But the things that you would like to enjoy is on the other side of the discomfort. When you wanted to learn how to ride a bike, you fell down a few times. And then you were able to enjoy the experience. And it is the same thing. And we really don't approach life as children approach life, Because even if they fall off a bike today, tomorrow you're sure they're going back. They put on a band-aid and they're gone. As though they did not have a, quote unquote bad experience. And you would recognize within them and even observing them, they really don't let the day before define them. Even if they have a not so good experience with a friend, they're going back to being friends tomorrow. They are going back unless we train them otherwise. Don't that person is not your friend because la di da di da. And you would recognize when you leave children, they figure it out. They are way more forgiving than us. And they approach life a lot freer, but we don't because we let a lot of experiences define us and hinder us from future experiences, future opportunities. So you really have to approach everything from where you stand. Even if you had a horrible experience at a particular place with a particular person, you might go back to the person and come to work. The person moves on to another job. You are where your feet are. So whatever instruction or direction you get in that moment is really where you are supposed to proceed. And sometimes you might encounter a challenge. You may not always understand why the challenge came. A lot of times you're looking for a reason and you see that is why I didn't want to. And then what you do, you create another hindrance, you add another block. You add another block that you have to break down eventually in the future because all it is doing is really blocking you. So really think about it and think about yourself as it relates to self-love. And remember, it is a daily choice. What choice are you making daily towards you being the best version of yourself? Are you going to continue ignoring the thoughts? And for some of us, the thoughts getting loud. Are you going to continue ignoring the thoughts, or are you really going to move yourself forward? It really is up to you. And just remember that self-love is beyond affirmations and emotions, and is really about uncovering genuine self-respect. Because just as Anastasia self had said, it's really that you really didn't have any self-respect and you wanted to just, and again, a lot of times we are on our way. Do you have to beat yourself up about it, make yourself feel guilty about it? No, you were on our way in the moment. That is all that it was. And you really have to be more self-aware and have more self-care. And the only way to create that foundation is really built upon discipline, resilience, and growth. So you really have to, again, put in the effort. You really, really have to put in the effort. And before we end, let me just let you all know what is on the schedule for this week. And this week is a bit of a short week because Thursday is Corpus Christi. So for today, we looked at self-love more than a feeling. Tomorrow from 10, we have counseling and consultations, of course. Then from 6, we would be discussing relationships. Understand yourself first. So after you put the self-love into practice, we would be looking at understanding yourself first. Your identity and personal beliefs affect relationships. Then from 7, we have our fuel and flexible body workout sessions. On Wednesday, we have counseling and consultations from 10 again. And then from 6, we would be looking at mastering yourself to master your life. Develop mindset, habits, and emotional intelligence. On Thursday, of course, we are closed in observance of the Corpus Christi holiday. And on Friday, we have a private yoga and meditation from 10. From 3, we are free to be. So if you would like to join us, it is by appointment. So we release, relax, restore, and unwind. And then on Saturday, we have counseling and consultations again. And then from 3, we will be closed. So consider this week your week to practice self-love. Practice it, practice it. For some of us, we may be out of practice. When the opportunity presents itself, do not just grab for whatever the easy choice is. Stop, ask yourself what it is you would like to experience. Make the choice from where you are standing. Do not make the choice based on any external influence. Guys, please have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful week. Be mindful of you. Be mindful of the signs. Be mindful of the thoughts that you are ignoring. Because on the other end of that might be the answers to all the questions and the solutions to all the issues you might have. So have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful week. See some of you tomorrow and the rest of you next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.